What's up, peeps? What's up, peeps? So once again, I decided to do a video with one thing to talk about in mind, and then after my shower, I got about 50. So who knows what's gonna happen? Got this soap in while I was gone. I decided Storybrooke Soapworks, probably the number one manufacturer, soap maker I wish was not gone. So I thought maybe I should start trying to pick up some of their scents that I don't have, which will be tough. Because they weren't around a long time, and they were still a small manufacturer. So I bet there's not a lot of stock out there that people are gonna get rid of. If you're watching and you have any Storybrooke Soapworks scents, hit me up. That's one I like to stock up on. So I smelled this, and then I thought, I just got this in London at the beginning of our trip. Why am I label bubbling? Isla. I assume this is it's a perfume, Eau de Parfum. This is my own first and only Florist scent. Like their stuff, they ain't cheap, so I don't know how many will end up in the den in the end, but I haven't used it yet, and I thought this actually smells like it would pair well with this, and I thought, well, that's a little odd. But looking this up, it's a dark fougere, and Isla is a peaty Scotch, which peat comes from the earth, and it's a dark scent, so boom bop, there you go. And I looked this up, just did Google Translate, and I kind of got the forest of, I could already figure that one out on my own. And then Liguest, translated into Ligist, just the U dropped when it translated from French to English. I don't know what that is. Anyway, let me get going here. So yeah, I guess maybe this is not what I want to talk about, but we'll start with this. Is happier times. Florist was one of the big old-time scent makers in London that I'd never smelled anything of. That Barbara Dave is heavily into. Used to be Penhaligon's, and then they got to bougie new wave for him, so he's sticking old school Florist. And we didn't have much time in London, but we happened to be within really a block of Florist, and when we went to one other place we wanted to go to, and she said, go ahead and stop in. And so that was like my one stop in London, right, was Florist. And smelled some stuff, and I saw Isla, first of all, and I'm like, could it really be Isla, like the Scotch? And what would the chances be that they would have a scent made from that? And then you saw the labels handwritten. I'm like, what's up with this? And they said it's exclusive to the store. It's mixed right there, and it's the only place you can get it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was meant to be. How could I not get this? And then so I tried to hit B Dave up, but I think he wasn't awake yet. Long story short, he did say that he would like a bottle if the chance came across. And I'm trying to think. I think we were headed to Phantom of the Opera, and my wife said, hey, Florist is just a few blocks that way. We'll go hang out in the lobby of this hotel, and why don't you run over it? She said, how Barbara Dave gets. He gets cranky if he doesn't get what he wants. So let's make the old man happy, is what she really said. So we did. So we shall see. We shall see. What else? So what I was originally gonna talk about was, interestingly enough, this article came up on Reddit on one of the airline threads about somebody on a long haul flight who was, this airline has economy and then like economy plus, it has a little bit more leg room. And about seeing somebody who had came up from the back and just sat in an empty seat and then nothing ever happened to them. And what did people think about this? Which, of course, per the internet, triggered a lot of reactions on both sides. I'd say the vast majority was like, people pay more to sit there, so this isn't fair at all that somebody would just decide on their own that they're going to take what they didn't pay for. While you had some of the other folks partially like, well, it doesn't hurt you, what do you care? And also a little bit about, well, they should fill these seats. This would be like an upgrade opportunity. And if somebody can be more comfortable, why should these things go empty? So anyway, I went back and forth with one guy. I know this and Nextdoor and all these internet things. Most of the time I just read this stuff. And I think I said once before, just every now and again for my own entertainment, I decide to go back and forth. So one guy's opinion was, well, once the door shuts, the airline has made what they're going to make, and an empty seat being, somebody moving from one seat to another doesn't cost them anything. So why shouldn't they be more comfortable? So we went back and forth a little bit. My first thought was, well, because they're taking something that they didn't pay for, right? So just ethically, that's not cool. Regardless of the effect it has on the airline, we're just talking about, sociological standards, right? The society we live in. And so that's the same thing as if, like, once the movie starts, all the empty seats in the movie theater cost the movie theater nothing if you come in after the fact and sit down and watch the movie, right? They've made whatever money. And his point was, did I already do past two? It feels, there's nothing left there. This amazing number one razor isn't going to leave a lot of time for conversation. Maybe we'll do a talc or something. Anyway, he said that's not the same because you can always buy a movie ticket after the fact, after the movie started. And, then once the door shut on the plane, you can't. They've got who they've got. So, okay, a valid point. My other question is like, well, then is this just, in terms of fairness, is it just whoever gets there first? Because that's what's happening right now, right? Just some people decide that there's an empty seat, I'm gonna go sit there. So it's like, well, how fair is that to everybody else in economy? And he was a little wishy-washy about his answer on that. He's like, well, if they want to set up, what he said, yes, that or whatever system they want to set up. And I'm like, well, that's the difference, right? That's not at all what's being discussed. It's people deciding on their own, well, there's an empty seat. I think it's fair that I sit there, so I'm deciding. And if the airline wants to decide they're going to upgrade and fill up better seats, just as goodwill towards customers and maybe try to keep people coming back or whatever, and they want to set up a system for that, then great. That's up to the airline. But if it's just, once the door is shut, whoever gets there first, and that's just accepted practice, then it's going to, be like running of the bulls. The door's going to shut and people are going to, and they'll be, pushing and shoving. And just like you see when the plane stops and then you hear the ding, and all of a sudden all the seatbelts come off and people are like, I'm a big dude. So as soon as the ding and the seatbelt comes up, and if I'm in an aisle, I'm standing up and like this because you got the overhead storage there, but stretch out the knees, whatever. But the people that ding and then they grab their bag and they want to start working their way past everybody else, like that they're much more important, and those 30 seconds that they're gaining are going to make a difference. Anyway, that's a whole different argument. But I said, this whole So anyway, I brought it up at our breakfast table. Oh boy, if I can remember, which I won't, I gotta tell you how I cooked bacon this morning. It was different. Anyway, I brought it up at the breakfast table and kind of thought that interesting conversations and viewpoints coming up. And our youngest was kind of like, well, it doesn't hurt anybody. Why do they care? So I was trying to explain the whole like, well, but there's like society norms and this sense of right, and that, you know, it cost me this much money to sit there, and here comes somebody who didn't pay for it, then getting the service that they didn't pay for, and that's not fair. And she's like, but it shouldn't, you know, you're getting what you paid for. What does it matter? And I kind of thought, and I said, great, if you can live your life thinking that way, as long as you don't get taken advantage of for it, then that's probably an awesome way to live. But most people don't, you know, that we're not built that way. And after that conversation was all over and I was down here and prepping my camera and stuff, it got me thinking. Many times I thought if I were to do it all over again, I wouldn't because it'd just take too much studying and stuff, I think, and be too much brain work all the time. But studying the human mind and how it works and how we think and process stuff, I always find that fascinating, right? And I love it when stuff like this comes up and you have experts, and it's not always this is like memory and emotional response to things and stuff like that. And they said, you know, their answer to some of this stuff is we're not built that way. You know, our brains are made chemically, physically to react certain ways, and whether or not you want to say that's the best way, like, so this could be this, we're built over however long to be like, hey, I feel like I was wronged because somebody got something for free that I had to put effort and money into. So while that doesn't affect what I did, there's this sense of wrongness or imbalance or whatever that makes me uneasy or makes me upset or whatever. And it's easy to say, well, that shouldn't affect you, but it affects most people, I think. Anyway, I just thought about that along those lines, that I think we're probably just built that way. And why are we built that way? And why do we? So anyway, that's fascinating. So anyway, that's a question. You can put in the comments. I don't want to start an argument. I kind of see both sides, but I obviously lay down on the side. If the airlines want to decide that they will upgrade people and have a process for that, that's fine. Until they do, entitled individuals, in my mind, are deciding for themselves that they, above everybody else that's back in economy, should be able to go up and get a better seat and all this stuff. Anyway, speaking from somebody who had to travel back internationally in economy and was grumbling to my wife the whole time, no more of that. No more international economy. I mentioned bacon, but before bacon, something else that's sizzling. Nivea 2-in-1. Whoop-pow! This moment brought to you by Hombre's Barbershop, the sweetest smelling barbershop in Tucson. Speaking of Hombres, me and my buddy Barber Dave, back in full effect. Tomorrow, this is Sunday, tomorrow, Monday, at 6 o'clock. And guys, I'm like this for you guys. I got a meeting that goes until 5. It should be kind of an intense meeting. I got to pack it up and whoop on home and set up all the stuff and get all, you know, camera ready and all that stuff. But it's just he and I. It's just he and I tomorrow. And I don't know, he said, I have lots of pictures ready. So I got to figure that out. It's like picture sharing on our platform for our live streaming. But I think we're just chit-chatting. So I'm assuming we'll be talking about my last trip or maybe cruising in general or whatever. And man, that it's just like when I get into hobbies, right? Like I gotta cool it with my family when I get into hobbies, right? Like shaving and watches and cigars or whatever. You get all this knowledge you're excited about and you just want to talk about it all the time, right? So I gotta chill it out because they're not excited about it. But that's the way I am with cruising too. I will talk to whoever wants to talk about it for as long as they want to talk about it, because I am always excited about it. Anyway, what did we do? We did the 2-in-1. Wait a second, we'll do some talc. my bacon, this morning I got some bacon, and you know, for a long time ago, I switched over from in the pan, stovetop, to in the oven with parchment, right? You got to always use parchment on your baking sheets. There's no reason for your baking sheets to be nasty. Always use parchment. Parchment and then bacon, and then when it's done, you got to lift it up out of the grease and let it drip, and then put it on the paper towels. Been doing that for a long time. Like, this ain't the 80s. There's no more cleaning off your stovetop every time you make bacon. But all of a sudden, just today, I decided I'm gonna put some cooling racks, you know, on the pan, and make the bacon on the cooling racks, and then it's not just bubbling away in the oil. And would that make it a little less greasy, and then you're not having to drip the oil off? Because you know, I'm sure everybody's done this. You pick up the first few, and then the bacon fat is just streaming off of it. By the time you get to the end, it's cooled off enough, and it's sucked the bacon fat back up or whatever. And you do this, and like hardly anything's dripping off. And anyway, it worked really well. So I don't know. It's just, I'm assuming some people do this, but I kind of thought, I wondered if it wouldn't cook as well because it isn't in the oil to maybe transfer the heat to the meat itself and all that stuff. But it's bueno. So I think that'll be the way of the future. Here we go. Bacon the bacon. Okay, so here's the rule. It doesn't matter how much stuff costs. You got to put on enough to enjoy it. Man, this stuff, there's going to become a day I'm in tears when it gets very low and you can't just order some. I wonder if you could call them up. Probably not. They'd like to say how exclusive it is. Oh, that's good. Because what it is, it's got that smokiness, but it's not so in your face like the barber shop or the what's the Sterling one I like to use? Texas on Fire. It's not so that I think you could wear this around people and they wouldn't be offended. Oh, see, so then you're in the conundrum. Have you been in? We do this with food like all the time. Like, you get name whatever the food is, and it's something you really like. So you buy it at the store, but you don't want to eat it right away because then it's gone. And so then it's sitting wherever and you forget about it, or you keep thinking, oh, I got that, but I'm going to save it for, you know, another day or when I'm hungry or whatever. And then it's moldy or whatever, and then you're throwing it away. Same with like this stuff. Like, I could use it once a week, but doing so, then I know that it's gone earlier. And then that's sad. So do you enjoy it, or you try to make it last, but then you're not enjoying it as frequently? Look at this. Here's the dude that mixed it up in the date. He mixed it up in, and I got rid of it. I was torn. I used to save the boxes for all these things, and I'm like, I don't have space for that. But in the box for this was the percentages of the different scents. And like what was the big one? Patchouli, I think, was the biggest percentage. Anyway, I'm just rambling. You want to hear more rambling? Come and watch Drinks and Daves tomorrow. Oh, excited. We've got 2 guests lined up. I think one is 100%. The other one, I think, is pretty on board, but until we have a date set, I don't want to say anything. But part of the cadre, KJ should be with us a week from Monday, I believe, to talk about his hot sauces, eating hot stuff, growing hot peppers, all that thing. What, you know us, whatever else comes up, we got to talk about his hawk. I hope his hawk is tall and proud for all those that aren't cadre members, so they get a dose of a amazing mohawk. So yeah, that's it. I'm excited. I'm excited about him and the other guests that I think we should get penciled in pretty soon. Other than that, I'll see you on the forums.